On Tuesday afternoon, the Carolina Hurricanes announced the new numbers for the new faces, which goes to say, new number? Who dis?
Your Locked On Hurricanes, your daily podcast on the Carolina Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to a Wednesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you to the Everydayer for making this your first listen of the day. 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, talking everything about your Carolina Hurricanes. I'm your host, Zach Martin. I'm the Carolina Hurricanes beat writer over at the Hockey Writers, also the featured columnist for Chicago Wolves Weekly at the Hockey Writers as well. I am the co-host of the Surge Cast, which is a weekly Carolina Hurricanes podcast, along with all of my duties here at Locked On Hurricanes. Got a fun episode for you guys on a Wednesday as we get to talk about the new numbers that have been announced from the Carolina Hurricanes for their newer players, with a former player coming back with a new number and a current player who's actually switching his number as well. And then we're also going to do notable Canes numbers, something that's, I find really fascinating with the fact of how many guys have worn a certain number and who's particularly worn a number that you never would think of for the Carolina Hurricanes. And then we're going to round out the show talking about how Nadeau was named to a really cool camp for Hockey Canada. But before we get into all of that, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. As playoffs wind down, of course, the playoffs are no longer going for the NHL, but we are in the middle of baseball and all of that. The sports stopped sporting like we want to, mostly talking about hockey, but this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone, every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. So like I said, we get to talk about the numbers that were announced for the Carolina Hurricanes on their social medias and the fact that we get to know the new guys along with some former and current Canes who are also getting some new numbers as well. So as it stands right now, the new guys the numbers that have been announced was that William Carrier is going to be wearing number 28 for the Hurricanes this season, along with Shane Gostisbehere now wearing 4. I know previously he did wear 41 the first time he was with the Hurricanes, but that's because Spencer Martin currently has 41 for the team. So Shane Gostisbehere decided to just roll with number 4, which is kind of interesting for the fact that I don't think I've ever seen him wear nothing but 41. So 4 was available, and there you go. Now Shane Gostisbehere's got a new number, so hopefully all the people who got Gostisbehere 41 jerseys hopefully are okay with 41, or I'm curious to see how many 4 jerseys we're going to have now. And there's a lot of notable names that have worn that number for sure in the past. Tyson Jost is going to wear number 27. Eric Robinson's going to wear number 50, and I'm really excited to talk about that one here in a bit, why that's significant. Also the same for Jack Roslovic is going to wear 96. And then Riley Stillman wearing 61, Sean Walker 26. And then Brind'amour is switching from to number 22, which is very, very interesting to say the least for the fact of just how that's going to go down. So we're going to go from the lower numbers and start working our way up to former players have worn these numbers and stuff like that. So we're going to start with Shane Gostisbehere. He's going to wear number 4 this year for the Hurricanes. And the previous Hurricane to wear that number was actually Hayden Fleury back from the 2018 to 2021. But yes, it's been a very long time since we had someone wearing the number 4 for the Carolina Hurricanes, so it's kind of cool to see that back in there. Now moving on to number 22, and of course we all know who wore that number last, and that was, of course, Mr. Brett Pesce, back from 2017 to 2024. So he had that number for a very, very long time with the Hurricanes for over 7 seasons. Now we got a new occupant in that number in Brind'amour. Now number 26. Now we all know this is going to Paul. This one's going to Sean Walker. This one was actually worn last by Paul Stastny back in 2023. And then number 27, which is going to Tyson Jost. That number was actually worn last by Justin Falk back from 2013 to 2019. So a lot of so a lot of numbers that haven't really either hasn't been used in a while or it's changing hands for the first time in a long time. So like you said, you got Brett Pesce for 7 seasons in 22. Now that's going to have a new occupant. And then 27, no one's really worn that since Justin Falk. So it's been a long time since that's, changed in terms of those type of numbers. And then 28, we are going to have William Carrier. The last person to wear that number was actually Brendan Lemieux last season. So, Brendan Lemieux's going from 28 to 22. So there's a little bit of a change in that. So not too long of a change in terms of that aspects of what's going on with all that. So now we did go from 28 all the way down to number 50. And here's a surprising thing. No one in the Carolina Hurricanes has worn the number 50. So as Walt Ruff tweeted out earlier today or, on Tuesday, was that if Eric Robinson does get into a regular season game for the Carolina Hurricanes, he'll officially be the first player to wear number 50 for the Hurricanes. So there's a good potential new number the Hurricanes could see this season. It'd be very, very exciting to see a new number being debuted this year in terms of Eric Robinson. That would be very, very exciting if that is going to be the case. Now, the next number, and this one's really cool, is the fact that you got number 61, and this one is going to be worn by Riley Stillman. And the funny thing, too, is the last person to wear that actually was not his dad, Corey, but it was Sergei Tolchinsky, who wore it back through the 2016-17 season. So only 3 players have worn that number, but it wasn't the Stillmans are the only ones to wear it. Sergei Tolchinsky also wore the number 61 as well. And then the last game we get to kind of really talk about is Jack Rosovic wearing number 96. And here's the funny part, too, is he's also the other guy who could potentially be wearing a new number for the Hurricanes this year as well. No one's worn 96. The highest number to be worn by a Carolina Hurricane, which we'll kind of talk about a little bit more in segment 2 about notable numbers, was Brendan Shanahan. Of course, this is franchise overall. But he did wear 94, with the, Hartford Whalers back in 96, 97. So in terms of the franchise, no one's ever really worn anything past 94. So you're looking at Jack Rosovic becoming the first person to wear 96. And overall, I think it's interesting seeing some numbers that haven't been featured in a good bit and some numbers are making a comeback. Kind of like I like the lineage too, the fact that you got Riley Stillman wearing his dad's number as well. So you get this. So if you have a Stillman numbered 61 jersey, you kind of could just wear that and be fine with it if you really want to. Unless you want the newer design jerseys of, this upcoming season for 24-25. But if you still got your Corey Stillman 61 jerseys, it'll work perfectly fine because of his son Riley's going to be wearing 61 as well. So that's really cool. I do like the aspect of you're looking at now 2 potentially debut numbers. Now, 96 is more likely going to happen for the fact that Jack Rosovic does have a contract with the Hurricanes and doesn't seem like he's going to be playing in the AHL this year. So I would not be surprised if 96 gets checked off in terms of, all right, new number for the Hurricanes. Eric Robinson, I'm not saying that's a guarantee, but I think that's very likely that you're going to see that number kind of be used at some point this season, barring injuries or needing some extra men and stuff like that. So I really be surprised if we do see 50 at some point. Maybe not as much as we're going to see 96, but that's really cool that we get to potentially see, some newer numbers being debuted and stuff like that. And even look at the fact with Tyson Jost, I don't know how much he's going to play this year for the Hurricanes, but you have a number that's going to be debuting for the first time in a long time. You're talking 5 seasons with the fact that Justin Falk hasn't worn it since 2019. So you're looking at a number that hasn't really been used making a comeback. Number 4 has been used for a while since Hayden Fleury. So that's kind of nice. The fact that you got a couple of numbers that are kind of making their comebacks. 28 is nothing really new. Like I said, Brendan Lemieux wore it last year. It's definitely going to be, of course, Sean Walker wearing 26. Stats he wore it a couple seasons ago, but it's kind of cool. You see another new 26 being debuted on the Hurricanes. The number that's going to be very, very interesting to get used to is number 22, and it's not going to be Brett Pesce. It's going to be Brendan Lemieux. You're used to seeing him in 28. Now, of course, Brett Pesci's no longer with the Hurricanes. And Brandon Lemieux's dad, Claude, wore 22, so it kind of makes sense why he wanted to go to that number. It's a family thing, and it's available. So I know, like I say, I know it's going to be it's going to be tough for people to see in terms of the fact that it's not Brett wearing 22, but it's Brandon Lemieux. But like I said, I understand why he wants to go to 22. His dad wore when he played with the Avalanche. Makes sense just to go to that number. But that's definitely one that people are going to be like, okay, we see 22, but it's not our defenseman. But it's kind of cool to see that the 22 gets to live on longer on a different body. And it's the fact that someone like Brandon Lemieux, who's got family ties to that number, and he steps up when he needs to when the Hurricanes need him. So not really upset about that. So a lot of cool numbers, it's kind of see what numbers we're going to be looking at for next season and try getting used to the new guys on the ice. So like I said, numbers are coming back, newer numbers that might be getting some debuts. It's going to be fun seeing a number 96 Carolina Hurricanes jersey. That's going to be a lot of fun. Like I said, you're getting the 4 is coming back, the 27's coming back. So a lot of interesting numbers. So let me know what you think. What do you think of the new numbers for the new guys that are coming on? Of course, Brandon Lemieux changing his number, or the fact that, Shane Gostisbehere is back, but he's rocking the 4 instead of the 41. So if you're on the YouTube side of things, let me know in the comments. Let me know what you think about the new numbers and just what's it going to feel like trying to get used to seeing 22 on a different body. So now we get to talk about notable Canes numbers. I'm really excited for this because there's a lot of interesting characters who worn Hurricanes jerseys and certain numbers that have been used in the past. And we'll get to all that here in a second on a Wednesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. All right, guys, we got to talk about FanDuel, and I know you're just like me. I love sports. I know you love sports. We love them so much, we never want them to stop. Mainly hockey, but that's here, near, or there. And the fact that the playoffs are no longer around. Now we're in the middle of summer, and kind of the news is somewhat died down in terms of, players getting extensions and free agency and all that stuff. And now it's kind of not sporting like how we wanted it to. And, of course, I know we got NASCAR, we got, WNBA, NWSL, golf, and stuff like that. So there's still some sports, but with FanDuel, the good thing about them is the fact that they can let us keep our sports going whenever we want. And all we have to do is open the app and dream up any bets anytime we are in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone, every day, all summer long. So head on over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Welcome back to segment 2 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. So like I said at the end of segment 1, we're going over some notable numbers for the Carolina Hurricanes and just seeing, who's worn certain numbers and how long it's been since the guys have worn it and stuff like that. And just kind of curious to see, what the history of the numbers look like for the Carolina Hurricanes. So kind of going back, starting the early numbers, so, no one's actually worn the number 1 since 2004 when Jamie Storr had it. But of course, everyone knows there's a lot of there's been some, guys in the Whalers history that kind of worn the numbers, but in a little early on for the Hurricanes, it was Sean Burke. But the main one that kind of worn with Archers Urbe back from 1999 through 2004. Of course, everyone knows no one's going to be wearing the number 2 anymore because that's been retired. But Glenn Wesley was the last one to wear it from 98 to 2008. So basically in Hurricanes history, the number 2's only been worn by 2 different guys, Glenn and Rick Lay. And, of course, no one's going to touch that one. Going back to the number 4, Shane Gostisbehere is going to be wearing 4 this year. But if you're looking at the fact that Hayden Fleury wore it at one point from 2018 to 2021, other notable names, Jamie McBain from 2011 to 2013 wore it. Then, of course, everyone knows Aaron Ward, the Stanley Cup winner from 2002 to 2010. So that number's got to see 2 different Stanley Cup appearances. So it's really cool the fact you got Aaron Ward wearing it for that long, and then you got Shane Gostisbehere rocking the number 4 as well. Of course, number 5, we all know Jalen Chatfield's going to be wearing it once again. The last guy to wear it before him was Noah Hannafin. Other notable guys who've worn that number, Frasset Cabriolet from the 2006 to 2009, of course, Stanley Cup champion. Of course, there's a lot of guys going back through Whalers history, but in terms of just looking at the Hurricanes as a whole, that's mainly going to be it. That's kind of what we're looking at. Number 6, Tim Gleason wore from 2009 to 2015. Of course, Brent Hedican wore it back when they won the Stanley Cup. I know we got Dmitry Orlov wearing 7, but of course everyone knows Nicholas Volin wore from 2001 to 2010. It's always fun looking at just the different numbers and seeing okay, we know we got current guys who wear numbers, but who also wore it back in terms of the history of let's say number 8. Brent Burns currently wears it, but you're also talking guys like Tim Gleason wore it in 2007. Matt Cullen wore it from 2006 to 2010. Even Sandis Ozolinsh even wore that number too. And it's always something too I've always found fascinating with the Carolina Hurricanes is the fact that you've never noticed no one's worn 9 for the team. And for me, funny enough, as a kid, I wanted a Carolina Hurricanes jersey. Of course, this is right after they won the cup. And I'm as a kid, you're I just want my name on the back because it will look cool. And I picked number 9 because I've never seen anyone wore 9. And of course, I'm a kid. I don't know what's going on. And I'm how come I wonder why no one's worn number 9? That's because Gordie Howe's number got retired by the Hartford Whalers. And the fact that the Hurricanes carry on retiring jerseys from the Whalers, yeah, only one person's worn the 9 in franchise history, and that was back in 1980 with Gordie Howe. So that's why you're never really going to see 9. Number 10, of course, Gary Roberts was the last one to wear number 10 for the Hurricanes from 1998 to 2000, but the last person to wear that before that was Ron Francis from, when he did it with the Hurricanes and the Whalers from 83 to 2004. So technically he was the last one to wear it, but he kind of got that number back. But Gary Roberts was the last guy not named Ron Francis to wear that number. Of course, a lot of notable number 11s. You got Kevin Dineen from 85 to 1999. You got Jeff Daniels, Justin Williams, and then you got Jordan Stahl. And like I said, it's fun looking back at these numbers. No one's worn number 12 since Eric Stahl. And that's been since 2016. And I wonder, are we ever going to see someone wear 12 again? I don't know. It's very interesting because you look at how Eric Stahl was the last one to wear 12, but you look at 13, of course, you got Bates Battaglia, Ray Whitney, Jared Stahl wore it for a year, Warren Fogle, Max Domi, Jesse Puljujarvi's one of the last one to wear 13. So you look at how 13 has been kind of used by a lot of guys, but you look at Eric Stahl and it makes you wonder, is anyone ever going to wear 12 again? Or is the Carolina Hurricanes are just going to wait and be eventually we're just going to just put this number on the rafters, or he's just going to be retired and maybe that's going to be a number that's never really going to be worn. I don't know. It's very interesting when you look at the fact that you've seen a bunch of numbers get used recently, 15 was worn by Dylan Coghlan, but you had guys like Tomarutu, Kevin Adams, Scott Daniels. But you look at 12, that's a number that's not really been worn a whole lot. So I don't know. It's funny when you look at numbers and how certain ones get used a lot more than others and stuff like that. Because you look at number 18. Just from 2020 alone, you have Ryan Dzingel, Cedric Paquette, Derek Stepan, and now you got Jack Drury. There's a bunch of guys that have worn that number, and it makes you it almost makes you want to look into why those certain numbers get picked more than everyone else, or why other ones don't get picked as much. Now I know for number 30, of course, Aaron Dell kind of had the number for the Carolina Hurricanes, but not really. So technically, Hockey Reference, they're saying that Aaron Dell did wear 30 for the Hurricanes, but not really. So the last person to wear it was Cam Ward back from 2006 to 2018. But then you look at, other numbers 39. Alex Nedeljkovic was the last one to wear it. Numbers 62. Not really noticeable guys like Yaroslav Sabota and Rasmus Riesanen. Not really, like, those are really numbers you kind of think of hockey players having. Like, Brett Pesce wore 54 for one season. That was back in 2016. Like, we talked about 61. Corey Stillman wore it. Riley Stillman's going to wear it, but Sergei Tolchinsky also wore it for 2006 and 2017. So there's a guy who kind of slipped into the Stillman's get that number. Number 63. Dwight Helminen wore one season, but of course the number that everyone associates 63 with is Joseph Vasicek. Rest in peace to him, former, cup winner. Ron Hainsey for 3 seasons wore 65. He's the only one that wore 65. Callahan Burke, the only person to wear 68. Alek Tverdovsky wore number 70. So did Mike Murray. Those are the only 2 guys that have worn that number. And then you're kind of you're going back to like way in the past too, of like, into the bigger number of 70s. Not a lot of guys, of course. Jacob Slavin is the only person to wear 74. He's going to be the only Carolina Hurricane to ever wear 74. Let's be honest, because he's been with the team since 2016. He's just signed a new contract. He's not going anywhere. That number's going to get retired. Let's just be honest. You look at 77, man. I mean, you got Paul Coffey, Anson Carter wore it for a year, and Joe Corvo's won it. So, you've got some guys who've worn 77. Bray Shea Ward is the only person to wear 76 right now. I don't know if anyone else is going to pick that number. Steven Lorentz wore 78 for a couple seasons. Michael Ferland wore 79. Now, this is very interesting for me, is the fact that you look at number 80. And that is 2 players, both goalies, Kevin Weeks and Jack LaFontaine. Now, Jack LaFontaine only did wear for that one season. Of course, I believe the Hurricanes kind of rushed that kid a little too fast. But I find it very fascinating for the fact that the number 80 is worn by 2 guys, and they were both goalies. So that's really, really cool how that kind of worked out. Jesper Kokaniemi, Teuvo Teravainen, and Martin Nietzsche are the only guys to wear 82, 86, and 88. So that's kind of cool how that worked out. And even Darren Turcotte, back in the Whalers days, is the only guy to wear 89. And then Martin Frk, for the very number 1 game that he played for the Hurricanes, he wore number 91. So there was a former 91 for the Hurricanes in Martin Frk. And then number 92, a lot of very interesting guys to wear 92 for the Hurricanes, especially since 92 was worn in the same season this past year. So you got Michael Nylander back in the days of the Hartford Whaler times, and then you had Jeff O'Neill from 96 to 2004, and then Vasily Ponomarev and Evgeny Kuznetsov. Of course, they were part of the, Ponomarev going to the Pittsburgh Penguins in the Jane Gensel trade. And of course, they brought in Evgeny Kuznetsov in the trade from the Capitals. So you had the 2 guys wore 92 in the same year. And of course, like I said earlier, Brendan Shanahan wore number 94, but that was back during the Whalers days. But I know it's a lot of names, a lot of numbers I just throw at you guys, but I thought it's really cool. You look at how the history of the jersey numbers and stuff like that, look at notable guys. I know we didn't go through all the numbers. We could be here for like 2 hours just talking about certain numbers, but it's very interesting when you look at how you look at the history of numbers and who was worn it and stuff like that. So I thought it was really cool. You just kind of, you're seeing the new numbers that were announced on Tuesday, and then it's like, okay, well, what other notable numbers have been used by the Hurricanes and what guys have worn those numbers? Then it kind of makes you reflect on it, like, okay, Joseph Vasicek in 63, Nicholas Volin wore 7, Taradosky, same as Ojelynch, you had Paul Coffey back in the day. So you're just thinking of like the who's of some names wearing certain numbers and stuff like that. Then you kind of go back and reminisce of the 2016, looking at all those guys who wore those numbers as well. So, but let me know what you think in the comments on the YouTube side of things. Who was your favorite player to wear a certain number? Or, do you think we're going to see a new number ever debut and stuff like that? So let me know what you guys think about the Hurricanes numbers and just, what was your most interesting number that you always found fascinating for a certain player to wear? I would love to see those comments on that. So we're going to go to our last topic here in a second, talk about Bradley Nadeau and how he's going to be with Hockey Canada for the summer. So we'll talk about that here in a second on a Wednesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. We're driven by the search for better, but when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. And Indeed doesn't help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. One of the things I love about Indeed is the fact that it makes hiring all in one place so much easier, because now it's just you're looking for certain people that you want for certain degrees or certain types of hours and stuff like that, or just whatever you need to. And that's the one thing with Indeed, is the more that you work with them, the easier it is to find the candidate you need. And by leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences. So the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/lockedon. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. Welcome back to a segment 3 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. So the last thing we're going to talk about real quick is, before we wrap up the show, is the fact that Bradley Nadeau was actually named, or actually was more so invited, to the Hockey Canada's National Junior Team Summer Showcase, where this is actually going to be throughout the entire summer, and 163 players have been invited to this. Of course, you're talking under 18s and under 17s across all over Canada and stuff like that. So you're talking camps of the national junior team, Canada's national men's summer under 18 team, and the Canada's under 17 development camp. Now, for the Canada National Junior Team Summer Showcase, that's going to happen between July 18th and August 3rd. 42 players were invited to this camp. We're talking 4 goaltenders, 13 defensemen, and 25 forwards. This is actually going to take place at the WFCU Center in Windsor, Ontario, and it's also going to be held in Plymouth, Michigan. Now, a bunch of these names have, been selected recently in the NHL draft, including 17 first-round picks. And, of course, notable names like Oliver Bonka of the Philadelphia Flyers, Berkeley Cadden of Seattle, Easton Cowan of Toronto, Sam Dickinson of the San Jose Sharks, Tidja Ginla, also as well, Ken Lindstrom, Zane Parekh, Callum Ritchie, and then, most notable name, of course, everyone knows, is Bradley Nadeau. So he's going to be going there and showcasing, what he can do with the national junior team. So it's not the fact that he's going to like the, under 18s or the under 17. This is the national junior team summer showcase. So this is like the big guys of the big guys. And Bradley Nadeau is one of them. Like I say, one of 42 players and one of 25 forwards. So very, very cool for the fact that you got, recent draftees, like I said, Dickinson, Tidja Ginla, Easton Cowan, over the last couple of drafts. And Bradley Nadeau's going there as well. So it's cool that the fact that you get to see a Carolina Hurricanes player kind of get represented in a way of a Canada junior summer camp showcase thing. I'm not sure if they're going to get viewed, but I know it's in the end of the month in July. So if you're in Windsor, Ontario, if you're able to go, or if you're in Plymouth, Michigan, there's a possible way you can maybe see some Hockey Canada guys. And hopefully you can see Bradley Nadeau do his things. But just wanted to do a quick shot for Bradley Nadeau. Did really good in Maine last year. It's kind of one of the big names that has the potential to make the Carolina Hurricanes roster this year. Because I know a lot of, there's been some rumors of the fact that the Hurricanes really enjoyed what this kid's done. His production's really, really well. And who knows? Eric Tulsky did say that they're looking at possibly seeing what the young guys can do. Maybe they can step up and, pretty productive in their own way. So who knows? Do you see Bradley Nadeau kind of using the Hockey Canada Junior Camp to kind of bolster his stock for the Hurricanes and maybe make the roster this upcoming season? Who knows? But that's really, really exciting hopefully he does really well. Really excited for this kid. And like I said, hope he does well for Hockey Canada, and maybe hopefully the junior camp goes well and just gives him more time on the ice to hone his skills, and then see what he can do at training camp, in September, and what happens in the preseason as well. But that will wrap up this Wednesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Hope everyone enjoyed the show. If you want to keep up with me, you can follow me at OneSureZach. You can follow the podcast at LO_Hurricanes. If you click the link to my bio, you can find where to read all of my articles for the Hurricanes and the Chicago Wolves over at the Hockey Writers. You can check out my other podcast, the Surgecast. You can find the links to where to listen and watch that as well. And then with this podcast, you can find links to where to listen on all podcast platforms. If we get 5-star ratings and reviews, I might just read it on the show. And if you're on the YouTube side of things, make sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification so you don't miss an episode, click the thumbs up button, let me know if you like the show as well. Share with all their Caniacs so they come everydayers just like you, because we are over 900 subscribers, and if we get to 1,000, I might just do something special for you guys. And like I said, in the comments, let me know about the new numbers from the guides that are going to be for the Hurricanes for the 24-25 season. Let me know what you think about the new number selections, and then let me know about your favorite notable Canes numbers, and see, I'm curious to see what everyone's thoughts are on that. But I hope everyone enjoyed the Wednesday episode of the podcast. I hope everyone enjoys their Wednesday. And until next time, as always, let's go Canes.